Apple Music Essentials, music's most influential artists and the stories behind their songs.
The word essentials doesn't even begin to live up to the kind of work and the kind of precedent and inspiration that our guest today has established for millions and millions of people around the world. Yes, artist, yes, musician, yes, performer, yes, producer, yes, composer, actor, activist. And from what I can tell through all of that and the journey, just all-around great-hearted human being. Cyndi Lauper, it's a pleasure to finally meet with you, and thanks for taking the time to go through Essentials with us today on Apple Music.
That was a big intro, hard to live up to.
You've been doing it. You've been doing it the whole time. You come out and you have a smash out the gate.
I know.
We have to talk about it because it started everything to some degree.
It had to be so joyful, the sound. I got away with a lot. When we did that album, it really was soulful. We were inventing. We had like a certain amount of money to produce Girls Just Want to Have Fun. You know, we went into Broadway video with this idea that it was going to be like Bugsby Berkeley, and the fan would go like this, and it would be all these little heads, right? But it wasn't. It was a ball. It was like all the heads came into this one ball. And I looked at the guy and I said, "That's it?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what else does the ball do?" I says, "Can it bounce? And how much does that cost if it bounces?" You know, because that's how it always is.
Cyndi, it's the 80s. If you want the ball with the heads in it to bounce, it's going to cost a lot more money. You've always had the most restless relationship with other people's idea of success. Then you're just pivoting all the time, looking for the next thing. And it's something I think people have finally caught up to and really admire about you.
Would you want to do another version of Girls?
No.
I said it. I did it. You know, then I wasn't working with Rob anymore, and Eric, and Ulrich. So, of course it was going to sound different. It was going to sound very different. And, you know, I had the opportunity to work with Adrian Belew. He's a great guitar player. And I had the opportunity to work with Peter Wood, who was a wonderful arranger. In fact, he was the one that wrote that keyboard part in True Colors. Now, da 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 da. For True Colors, I purposely put that drum in. I purposely put an effect on my voice that sounded like a whisper. I emotionally regressed myself so that when you were driving in your car, you kind of felt this very simple, tender voice speaking to you. And then the chorus, of course, was bigger.
And I see your true colors shining through.
You talk about a song like True Colors, and I want to stay there for a second because it moved, and it continues to move so many people. And so I wondered if you could take us back to the day that you recorded that vocal.
When we were in that room, the heck were we at the power station? And it was just me, Peter Wood, and Jimmy Braylauer. There were two guys that did drum machines. And I wanted them to play the drum machine live because I liked the sounds. I wanted it to call to the deepest part of a person. And I kept singing it over and over again until it just happened. And we all kind of breathed together. And we did it, but it wasn't, oh, let's just go in there and do it. And, you know, it just doesn't happen like that. What happens is the connection. You're either going to connect with the musicians in almost a freaking spiritual way, or you're not.
I'd love to talk about Time After Time. This is a beautiful song. This is a timeless song. You know, it's a copyright. This is something people have played versions of themselves privately and publicly ever since it was released, and something just connected. I'd love to know a story about the making of that song, something that you can share with us.
They didn't want me to write. They didn't like the stuff I was writing in Blue Angel. So I I, in turn, became a really good arranger. We became this group. And just like, I was like, try a different key. Let's hear what my voice sounds in this key, in that key. Who's the storyteller? And by the time we got to Time After Time, it was like almost the last song. I was like, come on. So I wrote a little with Eric, but when I wrote with Rob, something clicked. And I had just written titles down. And I was looking through the TV guide, old movie titles. It wasn't going to be the title at all. And it was like, there was, Time After Time. There was a movie, Time After Time. So I wrote it down thinking, I'm not using this. This is just fake, for now. Wouldn't you know, we start writing it, and it's always time after time. I tried to take that out of that song, and the whole thing fell apart. So it's like, oh, come on. So I just figured, whatever, and left it. And then I looked up how many other songs were called Time After Time, and there was at least a dozen. So I was like, okay, I'm not in trouble.
You partnered up with the biggest movie of a generation. The Goonies is without a doubt.
I loved, yeah.
So much wrapped up in there, such a subversive tale that you realize as you get older and watch it, and especially now I have kids, you recognize there's messages I never saw as a kid. And you gave us one of the great themes of that time. How was that experience working on that movie, and what drew you to want to work on it in the first place?
It was a Spielberg movie, right? Who wouldn't want that? Right? And I just wanted to go to Hollywood and work on a Hollywood set. That was my dream. Those wrestlers and that time period made my life so much fun, and my mother was in on it. And then when we did that video, oh my God, it was such a our gang thing. It was like a culmination of everything we did, and all the wrestlers were in it.
There's an album that you released, which is called A Night to Remember, and it starts with somewhat of a derailment of sorts, a detour, if you will, and you can see where I'm going there, because to me, that intro feels like it was, 17 years ahead of its time, because when that record came out, maybe a little longer, when that record came out, it showed that you had a desire to want to move in that space that you talked about, those 40s, 50s, that kind of real idea of what inspired rockabilly. And then straight after that, you get into this moment, which is just all out modern pop. I Drove All Night. Got to talk about it.
When I heard that song, Billy had sent it. I was up in the Cape, and Billy and Tom, I really loved working with those guys. I did. Billy Steinberg, what a wonderful lyricist that guy is. And when they sent that to me, honestly, I thought it was important to do, because I had never heard a song with a woman singing about driving. And driving was a power thing, that you can drive yourself anywhere you want. And I never heard women singing about them driving themselves wherever they want, right? They were always being driven, right? So I thought that was a power song. Sisters of Avalon, which was one of my favorite songs, because we were on the road, we were trying to write. I couldn't come up with any lyrics, and I know I went to bed that night, and I actually cried, and I said, come on, God, help me write these lyrics. It's such an important song. And, of course, maybe they're a little artistic for the radio, but it was telling the story of women and how they have been castrated in so many ways, from the beginning of time. So it was important to me. I sang that song in Tuxedo Park at some old house that I had rented to put all the people who were working on the record in, and I sang it outside.
When you write songs like that, when you have moments like that, and you've achieved radio success, and you've sold millions of records, and then you're able to capture something that means that much to you, whether it's through divine intervention or otherwise, aren't those the key moments looking back on it that point you in all the interesting directions?
Well, this is all while people tell you, you're ruining your career. It's wrecked. You know, every moment after that was like, you're ruining everything. You will be finished. That's it.
No. Let's correct that. Ruining everything for you. I'm having a great time, right? Isn't that what the answer is?
No, well, I don't know. I really don't know. I really did think that, you know, there was one time that Etta James came up to me and she wanted me to produce her. And I so wanted to, but because everybody kept telling me all the time that I will ruin everything, I thought if I worked with her, I would ruin her career. And I didn't want to ruin her, you know. So I said, you know, oh yeah, but I never followed through because I thought I would be the ruination of everyone.
That's devastating.
You know, I'm sorry now, but it happened.
All Through the Night. I'd love to talk to you about it. It's one of my favorite songs you've ever written and worked on. And
I didn't write that song. It was Jules Cher. And Jules Cher sang it like a Beatles song. You know, I grew up on the Beatles. Whenever I was lost as a kid, and I was lost quite a bit, I would listen to a Beatles song like Across the Universe or anything that they put out, the White Album, the you know, Abbey Road album. It didn't matter. And when I heard that song, I was like, wow, it is like the Beatles. But then when we were doing it, you know, again, I don't sound like Paul McCartney or John Lennon. I don't sound like them. So I had to find a new space for it, a different life. And we were working with a drum machine. And I said, well, if you make the drum machine and then you put like a little, you know, arpeggiator, and then I'll sing like this. Now let's try it in different keys. And we went through different keys. And I actually sang as a lead his harmony because I couldn't sing as low as him. You know, he was singing the melody, but it wasn't as exciting when I sang it because I didn't have his voice. So I sang it higher so it had a kick. That's how that happened. And, you know, we didn't think it was going to happen because we couldn't get the technology right. You know how technology is. It forces you to be an innovator because the damn thing don't work anyway. You know what I'm saying? And then when it does work, it's like, geniuses, we are geniuses. Then it doesn't work again. Like, no, we're idiots. What?
You try to get to work like it worked last time, and it's never going to ever work that way ever again.
Well, we did it in the studio. We were okay.
You got it in one. That's all you needed to do. But you have just been the most amazingly generous storyteller and so gracious with the time that we've had. And I really hope our paths cross again at some point. And whenever you're ready to talk, I am always here to be on the receiving end of your amazing stories. Thank you.
And thank you. Thanks for having me. And thanks for appreciating what I did. Thank you.
Oh my God, still do. You're the best. Take care. Bye-bye.